Welcome to River of Living Water Revival School. I trust that God has kept you well. In a series of videos, we will be looking into the love of God for all people because He wants everyone to know about His special love. His special love that gave life and dominion to everyone. His special love that gives life forever. His special love which promises to remove death, disease, tears at the appointed time. On many occasions, God has established means of conveying His love for all people. He has written a love letter to us all in the Holy Bible, containing all the details that we may need. Over 2,000 years ago, He made a visit with humanity, God with us. He lived physically with people for 33 years. He expressed His undying love for everyone through the cross. Welcome and be greatly blessed. This is River of Living Water Revival School. Welcome this day. Welcome this day. God's love is not a feeling. It is substance of supernatural nature. We have seen that God's nature is love. God is supernatural in nature. God is supernatural in nature, and He is love. And so, love is not a feeling. Love is a substance of supernatural nature, with authority to empower. The love of God is a system. The love of God forms the system of love, which is governed by the law of love. We know that the first law of love, which was given by God, was the law that was given to Adam and Eve. And with that, it was the God's love which had set itself to protect these people from falling victims of the violation of the laws of righteousness. God did not want these people to violate or to become victims of the violation of the laws of righteousness. And so the system of love within Him institutes the laws of love that creates boundaries of protection of the supernatural persona, so that this persona is not defiled and violated and followed by the consequences of the violation of God's law of righteousness. So to every person who has come from the being of God, love, like joy, is very, very influential in the person's ability. It is a force that can drive one forwards. It is a force that can motivate and strengthen. We know that in the 10 Commandments, when God gave the 10 Commandments to the children of Israel in the desert, God was setting boundaries. God was setting boundaries because these people are coming from an already defiled system. And these people, He wanted to elect boundaries for them so that if they worked within the boundaries, they will be sustained within the righteousness of God, and all good and the blessings of God, everything would flow to them without any hindrance. And so the 10 Commandments are commandments of love, which God has expressed and revealed, touching on physical activities which produce a supernatural dynamic that has the power to lock up a person to control their potential, to enslave a person, to hold a person as a slave, as a captive, to damage, to injure the person who comes from the being of God. And when we understand these things in a little bit better way, we will realize that the commandments of God, are commandments that are motivated by love. They are love commandments. It is the love of God which was setting boundaries for the people so that they do not destroy and defile themselves and enter into captivities and lockdowns like we are experiencing in this age. In Deuteronomy 28, the curses of disobedience, we can read the lockdown that people have already entered into because of the violation of God's first law of love. And that is what God hoped, that he could raise a people. He could work with these people of Israel and raise a nation that would display his splendor in the ancient world. When Jesus came, he was asked which is the greatest law. And he told them that the first is to love your God with all your heart and with all your being, with all your soul. And the second one is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so these are the powerful laws of love. These are the powerful laws of love. He said that the second one is love your neighbor as you love yourself, which means that you cannot love your neighbor if you don't know how to love yourself. If you do not know who you are, if you do not know who you are, if I do not know who I am, and all the details that come with it, it will be very, very difficult for me to love my neighbor. So it is your responsibility to love yourself. It is my responsibility to love myself and to work this out. Work this love of God within yourself out for yourself. Work it out. I must work it out. It does not come automatic. When we leave ourselves to circumstances, when we leave ourselves open to factors and circumstances and authorities and every manner of factor and authority that comes by our life, we leave ourselves open. We leave these authorities and factors to write their own stories within ourselves. And those stories which they write within ourselves in our database, that is what we believe. That is what we believe. And we are not able to see ourselves as who, the precious creation who come from the being whose nature is love, and love dwells within us. And we are love, and we are not able to love ourselves. So we believe the garbage and the lies that circumstances write to us, and our lives are ruled and dominated by all these authorities and lies. But it is our responsibility to know the truth. It is our responsibility to work out truth about loving ourselves, about who we are, about the potential who we are, about the fact that we come from the being of God. It is in our mandate and in our right to work it out. Just like Jesus knew who he was. Jesus is love because he comes from his Father, who is love. And he knew who he was. Jesus knew what his mandate was. And Jesus was fearless. And he worked out his mandate fearlessly. He selected the people he wanted to work with. He was on top of his game. He was not going to be pulled down or shamed or shut up by the religious leader. Jesus came out to roll a new process, a new system that was only written within his being. This new process was written within his being. This new way was written within his being. Nobody else knew about it, but it was Jesus' responsibility to work it. He had to come here on earth and work it out born within the human bloodline, having grown up within a community and in a family setting. Jesus had a responsibility to work it, and Jesus worked out his Father's mandate. What his Father had written within him, Jesus worked it. Jesus knew what his Father had mandated him to do, and he went ahead fearlessly, and he worked it out. He blossomed in his Father's love. Jesus blossomed greatly in his Father's love. Jesus drew greatly from his Father's love. Jesus is one person who knew how to draw from his Father's love, from his Father's energy, from his Father's power. Jesus knew how to do it. And he did not complain of this and that. Jesus just every day, every second, Jesus rolled out his work to the end. His work was a love mission. His work was a love entrepreneurial process. He needed to work it out through the lives of the people. And in John 15, verse 9 to 10, he says, "As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remained in his love." Jesus obeyed his Father's instructions, and he worked within the laws of righteousness of God. And he remained within his Father's love. And he was successful. He was powerful. He was fearless. He was not defeated. He completed his process. And in the end, he has told his Father when he's praying, he has told that he has finished the work that God has sent him to do. That he had glorified his Father. In the work he has done, he had glorified his Father. Jesus was pleased with his work. He accomplished his work with great excellence. So what we are saying is that when we see how God has spoken a lot about love, and when we realize that the underlying signature of the whole work of God with people is love, and we see Jesus rephrase and sum up the laws of love, this means that love and joy are of vital importance to the person who is of God nature. The person who has come from the being of God thrives best when he is empowered by love, when he is empowered by joy, when he knows who he is, and he first of all accepts himself and herself, who he is and where he has come from. This persona thrives best in this way. We as human beings, we have a weakness of looking for love from others. We expect others to love us because when we were born, we opened our eyes and we saw ourselves in our parents' arms, bathed in the love of our parents. And so we expected that the world would be as loving as our parents are loving. But many times when we go into the world and interact with others, even children in school, they realize that the world is not as loving. When assistants are employed in the house to take care of the children, we have seen the cruel destruction they do to the babies and to the children. We cannot get love from others. We cannot depend fully to be fed by the love from others. So we look for love from others. And when they reject us, we accept that ugly language. We allow it, that ugly language of rejection, of shaming, of ridicule, of scattering, written by others. We allow that language to be written within our being, to be written within our database. And we nurse this rejection for years and years and years. We nurse it for years and years. Then, because of allowing it to be recorded within us, and we meditate on it and allow it to be really become part of our database, then it rules us. It rules us and tells us that we are not lovable, we are not acceptable, we are not worthy. However, Jesus and God continue to tell me and tell you that you are love because you come from a person whose nature is love. I am love and I'm full of love within me, that I must love and appreciate myself and must first of all know who I am, know where I have come from, know what my nature is, and approve of myself and appreciate myself, not wait for any person to approve of me, but first of all, I must love myself. And you realize that when we react in this way, love ourselves, the vibe of love is what radiates within us. Vibe of love radiates within us. And so people will be drawn to us because we have loved ourselves. We have appreciated ourselves. We have approved ourselves. We have rejected the edicts of scattering, the edicts of rejection, the edicts of shaming, the edicts of ridicule. So what Jesus is telling us, the law of love says that you love your neighbor as you love yourself. Jesus is saying you must first of all learn to appreciate who you are. Learn to appreciate and know where you come from. Learn to appreciate of what nature you are made up of. And therefore, write a new edict. Write a new edict of love within your being from your Father that has been written by your Father. So we have said that love is stamped in the whole of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. And God's love fills everything in the whole universe. God's love fills everything in the universe. God's love radiates from his being to all things and to all people. God's love is in great abundance. God's love is not in shortage. There is no shortage of love. Why at times we think that there is no love is because we expect other human beings to come and approve of us and come and love us. It's because we expect others to love us. And when there's nobody who is coming by, we are destroyed by loneliness and aloneness. We are destroyed by loneliness. And we say that people hate us. People are not good. People hate me. That is lies. That is the lies from the paradigm, from the database. Because there is abundance of God's love in the universe. God's love is radiating to every person who is born in this world, every person who is looking for people to love them, and they can't find anybody to love them. They must know that there is love. Love is radiating from the being of God. Just tap into it. All you need is to tap into it. Tap into this love of God. It radiates to everything and to everyone. And all one needs is to take it up. To tap it. How? When you hear about it. When you come to learn about it. When you come to learn about God who is your Father. From where you came from. When you come to know that you are created in the nature of love. Of God, the nature of that is love, then it is your responsibility. The way to receive it is to believe it. When you hear it, believe that truth. That is truth. Believe it. That is the truth about you. You are from the being of God. When you hear that, you believe it. And take it up and say, I am created in the image of God. I am created in the image and the likeness of God. My Father is God. I, the person who lives within my physical body, I am like my Father, who is of supernatural nature, and who lives in heaven, and who is God. And he is the one whose nature is love. And so, God's love dwells within me, because his nature is love. His love, the life of God in me, is love. Its nature is love. And so love dwells within me. And so I believe, today I believe that love dwells within me. love is part of my being, I will receive this love. I today believe that I come from the being of God, that He is my Father, that I'm in His nature, and love is within me, and He is radiating His love out for me. I receive it, and I give Him back my love. I give Him my love back. I love you, my Father. So it is our responsibility to work it out inside our being. Meditate on it, or eat it up. The process of meditating and writing it up in the database, it will not be recorded easily. It will be stolen every time by other lies. Other lies that have been written about you in the database will continue to erase the truth. So it is our responsibility to work it and write it in a database. And that is what I call eating it up. Eating it up, the truth up, until it is recorded in the database. When it is safely recorded in the database, it will erase the language of rejection, the language of waiting for others to love you and to love me. And it will start working out its power and its meaning within our lives and within our being. Jesus is love, and He is full of love like His Father. And He did not entrust Himself to others to love Him. Jesus did not depend on any man to love Him so that He can accomplish, or so that He can feel that He is worthy when He's here on earth. No. He knew who He was, and He knows that He is love, and He comes from a loving person. And He knows that He was going to live under the umbrella and to bathe in His Father's love every day. And so He did not entrust Himself to the love of others. So He did not expect others to work it out in Him. So He knew who He was. He loved Himself. He loved God. He loved all people. And this gave Him the power and the motivation to work it. So we have seen that in the summarized commandments by Jesus Christ about love, He said that love your God with all your heart and with all your might and with all your soul and with all your being. And here we are saying again that we are establishing this fact that God is love. And He has released it in me and in you and in everyone. The love of God lives within our being. It is for us to work it. It is not an automatic process. We have to work it out. It is our choice to take it and eat it up. So it is our choice to take the love of God and use it up, write it up within our being, so that we can work out its power in us. Receive this love and give it back to Him. He also said, Jesus told us, love God with all your heart and with all your soul and with your being. It is a command of love. So we are commanded to love God. So we must give love. It is give back our love to God. Declare continually that you love God. I love God. God loves me. God is my Father. My Father loves me. I love my Father. I love myself. I am lovable. Love God. I truly love God. I have come to know about His love and to know that God is love. And I have come to know that I come from the being of God. And God's nature of love is within me. And so love dwells within me too. And so I have to come to realize, to acknowledge that God is love. And I love God. And God loves me. And that God is my Father. And my Father loves me. And I love my Father. And I love myself too. I am lovable. I am so lovable. Love radiates out of me into everything I do. Love is the signature of my being. So as we write it in the database of the mind, it will start speaking to every part of our being. So it means if we eat it up, it's truth will work out in your being and in my being.